Hello, everyone. My name is Alexi. I'm the Managing Director of Eurasiop Solutions. I'm your host for today as well. Welcome to our agency event. Um, if you got any questions, there is a chat function at the bottom of the screen which will allow you to ask questions. So yeah, please make sure that you ask the questions, and if there's anything that you want to talk about, we'll address that. There's going to be a section for questions at the end of the meeting as well. So yeah, let's get started. First of all, thank you for finding the time in your busy day to basically be able to join us, and hopefully you'll learn something from this. So our webinar is called Marketing Your Business with Google in 2020. Obviously, this has been quite a year, as you all can imagine. So, all right, well, let's go and talk a little bit about us, who we are. We're an agency called Eurasiop Solutions, and our agency has been around for 13 years now. We've got offices in Brisbane and Melbourne, and we specialize in Google ads, social advertising, and a bunch of other things like SEO, web development, and also recently started doing a fair bit of B2B marketing and coaching as well. The mission of our business is to deliver campaigns that basically provide results specifically to the ideal target market as well. Here's our team. In case you're wondering, we've got a team of 10 people now, and this is a bit outdated. But yeah, if in case you've spoken to any of our guys, this is what we look like. And yeah, I mean, I hope I don't look too much different from my photo over here. In terms of our clients, we work with a broad range of different clients. We've got quite a strong presence in the health field. We work with a lot of dentists and allied health professionals. We've also got quite a lot of work that we do for the legal firms as well. We really have quite a mix, and really the idea is to work with the customers who want to grow and customers who want to develop their business and take it to the next level. The agenda for today is we want to talk about Google Ads. Obviously, this is something that's quite available to a lot of people, but at the same time, we still see that a lot of businesses try to do things themselves and they fail. And look, you can certainly do a good job, I think, with a little bit of guidance, and hopefully we'll be able to provide that for you as well. We're going to talk about our SMART framework. Now, this is the framework that we follow in terms of developing, the best campaigns and getting the best results for our clients as well. We're going to talk about consumer behavior because, as you can imagine, this year it's obviously been quite a change in terms of how the customers are behaving online. We want to talk about conversion optimization because I know some of you are running campaigns and potentially you guys are looking for ways to improve them. SEM to SEO. Now, that's an interesting subject. We had quite a number of inquiries of people wanting to know more about SEO. And I think the best way to do that is actually transition between SEM and SEO. So we'll cover that as well. We'll go through case studies, and then we're going to go through some questions as well. So, but like I said, if you've got anything, super, that you're interested in, make sure that you use the chat function and ask away. So, all right, well, let's get started. Google Ads. I guess, in my opinion, I think that's the fastest way to get your business out there because I'm not even sure if there's anything else that will get you exposure as fast as Google Ads these days. You can probably do a similar thing with social media advertising. However, with the Google Ads, it's quite different. I'll explain to you why in a couple of slides. So why Google Ads? I think besides the fastest way to advertise, it's also got a feature allowing you to control your budget. So whatever it is that you are spending with Google, you've got full control over that. So oftentimes people delegate budgets for banner or billboard advertising, and they have no idea how to control that budget. It's just the dollars that you spend. Here, you get to see exactly how many people see your ad, how many people click through, engage with it, and also inquire as well. You also got different formats across different channels. So YouTube advertising, for example, is one of the channels. You've got banner ads. You've got remarketing, you got shopping campaigns. So there's many different ad formats that allow you to get people not just to your website, but also to buy as well. Google Ads is consistently improving, and I'm not sure if you're on top of this too much, but every time they got new tools, bells and features being added to the accounts, and this allows us to get even better results for our clients as well. I find that with the right tracking in place, it's the easiest way to track your ROI, return on investment, because a lot of the time with other forms of advertising, you just don't know exactly what's getting you the return and how much it's costing you. So here it's all really black and white. Now, Google is not just Google search. You've got a huge framework of different, I guess, placements where you can show your ads specifically to your target market. You've got Gmail, you've got YouTube, you've got Google Maps, and you've got a ton of other placements as well. And really what they're trying to do is they're trying to provide value to customers along their journey. So if someone's, let's say, waking up, most likely they've got their phone set with an alarm. So Google knows that information if it's an Android. If someone's using maps to get somewhere, they know exactly where you are and they know where you're going as well. Now, all this data is important specifically when it comes to advertising, because if you can understand where the customers are and how they're commuting, you can basically address them in the right way. So for example, if someone's traveling on a bus, they'll most likely be checking news portals or Facebook or something else on their mobile. So serving ads specifically to them on the mobile makes a lot more sense as opposed to targeting everybody else. So there's all these little things that you can sort of look at. So I guess in terms of Google channels and the marketing funnel, something would have happened to this particular slide, but yeah, basically, if we look at the funnel, we've got the awareness side of things right on the top. So this is where people don't know anything about you, and you need to specifically tell them who you are, what you do. So the funnel typically goes awareness at the very, very top. Now, it's usually followed by your consideration, which is your search, where people are specifically searching for you. Now, with the search, you've also got an option for PLA, which is the product listing ads or your shopping ads, if you like. And then in the end, there's remarketing. Now, most of the time, we find that people completely forget about things like awareness marketing and retargeting as well. They just want to go straight for search as well. And this is one of the problems that we're seeing. Now, I'm not sure if you've come across this, but a lot of the time when you approach agencies, they're not really interested to work with customers who've got less than $5,000. Well, definitely not the case with us, because we can certainly get you a return for any sort of budget. But this is the reason why they basically want $5,000 or more. And look, this is more to do with an outcome as opposed to anything else. The awareness. Typically, if you're running a budget of, let's say, $5,000, and this is just a figure that most agencies tend to work with. This allows you to allocate a budget of about 10% to awareness campaigns. So this is your banner ads that pop up on YouTube. They may pop up on news websites and blogs and websites that basically are content driven. For $500, obviously depending on the subject, you're able to reach an audience of about 200,000 to about 350,000 people. Now that's a lot of people who will see your ad. Now this doesn't mean that people are clicking through it. That means that people are seeing your ad. So if you want to educate them on your brand and what you do, this is a great way to start the conversation. Now, as you know, people want to work with people who they know, like, and trust. So this is that start of the conversation that we really want to tap into. Now, education, which is the next level, and it's often not really touched on, is a tier between awareness and consideration. This is where you want to get people to look for you, where they say, look, how much does a particular profession charge? How much does, let's say, a chiropractor charge? Or how much does a migration agent charge, or something like that? And a lot of the time, these searches may end up as inquiries, but a lot of the time people are still searching. Now, these cost a little bit more, but we find that there is some intent in terms of those inquiries coming through. So typically, you'd probably put about 20% of the marketing budget towards something like that. Now, consideration, this is where most businesses just basically want to fish. It's most of your budget. You probably put about $3,000 out of the 5, and this generates inquiries and sales. Now, you probably say, well, why not just put everything towards consideration? Now, the problem is sometimes the clicks are really, really expensive, and you really don't have the audience to work with. Whereas where you run an awareness and education campaign, you get cheaper clicks through, and you actually get to learn more about the behavior of those people. So it's really more to do with a numbers game. And finally, remarketing is really more about follow-ups. Now, this is huge if you're running an online store. As you know, there's a lot of people who are abandoning shopping carts. I mean, we do it ourselves. You may come to a website, pick a couple of items and then forget about it. And you may find that another ad will pop up somewhere where you least expect it, and they'll say, look, you've got a few items in your shopping cart. Why don't you, finish your transaction, and potentially there's an incentive like a discount or so. You can also do remarketing with service-based campaigns as well, where people potentially reach a key page, like let's say a contact page, but they don't make an inquiry, or there's some sort of condition that people are meeting as well. So many different recipes. And look, the whole idea is, if you had the budget, not just put everything into consideration, because at the end of the day, you need data and you need to work with the numbers. And you may find that there are different markets that originate from this altogether. So Google Ads. So let's talk about this. How do they work? Well, with Google Ads, if you really want to get the most out of it, tracking is a must-have. Like, I mean, I'm still fascinated by the amount of clients who come to us and say, "Look, yeah, we run a campaign. We want to do better. Can you have a look at what we've got?" And if you've got no tracking, it's very difficult to make any sense of what they've done. And really, you want to be tracking things like your phone calls. You want to be tracking things like your email inquiries, your contact form submissions, and potentially things like sales and visits to the key page as well. Now, Google Ads is all data driven. The more data you got, the better it's going to get. And lately, if you've been following it, they've been implementing a lot of machine learning. Now, as the Google Premier Partner, we get a lot of this information firsthand. They tell us exactly how all these new tools work and exactly how we can implement them for our clients as well. So data really is the key there. So if you have a smaller budget, and if you just want to sort of delegate it specifically to the consideration phase, unless you know the market, you're really experimenting. And look, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that you shouldn't be expecting an outcome from something like that. And to give you an example, sometimes clients make an assumption that, okay, their market is X, and they basically want to come up with certain keywords, and that should be converting. As a result, they may find that they spend a couple of $100 and no conversions, even though the clicks are good and the click rates are awesome, but nothing's working. So there are cases like that, and oftentimes it's nothing to do with the campaign. It's more to do with the understanding of the business and the consumer behavior as well. So how can we get the results faster without the $5,000? Well, what we normally do is we'd actually sit down with the business owners and explore the actual services. We have to understand exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it, and potentially where the starting point is in terms of their customer approaching them. We analyze existing data, Google Analytics. There's a ton of data about who visits your website, how much time they spend, where they come from, whether they're mobile or desktop based client, and overall, there's a lot of powerful information in there. And you can also set further conversion tracking in there also. Creating powerful ads, I guess this is the one thing that we do a lot of, and there's a bit of a formula. And look, I'll go through this in a bit more detail, but overall, you basically want to make sure that there's a headline that actually captures the person. There is a value proposition, and there's a call to action. Now, I'll mention a few more things later in this presentation, but overall, there is a bit of a method that we follow specifically when it comes to creating ads. I guess the main goal for us is to work towards a reasonable cost per conversion based on the total budget, as opposed to the cost per click. Now, I know that a lot of businesses, for example, the lawyers, have very expensive cost per click in their campaigns. It could be $10, $15, and even $25 per click. Now, does that mean that you can't get clients through this? Well, no, you just have to work smarter, and you have to understand, if it's worth the while for you to pay, let's say, $50 or $100 per inquiry, because at the end of the day, the outcome from this particular sale could be a lot greater. And at the same time, don't forget, there are other businesses just like you as well, who will potentially not advertise based on the fact that it's too expensive per click as well. So we always like to look at problems as opportunities, put it that way. Now, with Google, just to sort of give you a bit more of an idea, anything Android basically collects data specifically around the user experience. So people on the go, people using smartwatches and stuff like that, smart TVs, people using tools like Google Lens to translate certain signs and stuff like that. You got your Google Assistant and everything. You've got your Google Home. So all this stuff basically collects a lot of data specifically for advertising. And most of the time, it's connected to your Google account. And if it's not, it's connected to your browser. So Google has a lot of data to work with. And every time, it's just about the consumer behavior and how they can basically translate it into an outcome specifically with the ads. So yeah, there's a lot of data being collected as we speak right now. So where do we fit in as an agency? I guess for us, the biggest problem is that Google really cares about the consumer or the user. And a lot of the time, it's just quite disappointing. Someone may start advertising only to find all their ads being disapproved, or potentially, there's very little assistance from Google. What they're trying to give you is very, very basic. So really, Google wants the best consumer experience, and they basically want to make sure that the website is fast, it's relevant, and it's engaging. So these are some of the things that are important for them. Now, and they also basically want to monetize the whole thing, which is why they're doing this in the first place. Google's very secretive a lot of the time. They don't share very much, and every time there's a new surprise. Like I'm sure you would have seen on Google.com or some of the news websites about some things that are going on with the ACCC right now. I think I really don't know where this is going to go, but yeah, it's happening right now. You can read all about it. I think it's to do with the news companies wanting to get priority within the Google rankings, and Google isn't too happy about that. So anyway, as an agency, I guess, yeah, we work in the best interest of the business. So our job is to make sure that the business gets the best outcome from the budget that they're spending, and that we use the best tools available to us via Google and other things as well, just to work towards the ultimate goal. We work around the ROI. I mean, it doesn't make sense to advertise unless you get a return on investment. And look, if you run a search campaign, it's fairly straightforward. You get an inquiry within a reasonable period of time. But if you're running a campaign for, let's say, branding or awareness, a lot of the time you just don't know how long it's going to take to get that return. Now, we've got a little bit more data in order to be able to provide some guidelines around that. I guess it's all about continuous learning. We spend a lot of the time on various coaching programs, on various research, just to make sure that we're on top of all the tools and we know exactly what the best practices for businesses are. And I guess for us, it's just about using the best approach to get the best outcome. So we spend a lot of time talking to the client, understanding exactly who they want as their target market, and potentially what else we can experiment with as well. So it's a double-edged sword. We basically need to make sure that we keep Google happy while get the customer the outcome that they're basically after as well. So let's talk about our SMART framework. Now, this is something that we've developed over time. And yeah, I thought I'd share this because a lot of the time we find that the conversation is somewhat limited unless we actually follow this 100%. So the SMART framework, it's something that we've developed over the years. It helps us bridge the gap between the clients and their target markets. It basically provides a bit of a bigger picture, because many customers come through with their own ads already set up or with their own website set up, and that's totally fine. It's just that sometimes this is a limiting factor for us in order to run a really good campaign. Now, this is what it looks like. I guess our SMART strategy is all about 5 things: strategy, message, attract, results, and thrive. So strategy is all about picking the right sort of strategy to make sure that we can hit an outcome specifically for the client. And with that, we need to set goals. Message is all about creating offers, landing pages, and make sure there are call to actions, because the biggest problem with agencies is that they usually use the existing message and they try to drive traffic to it. Now, I think the whole game of traffic is a bit dated. Like I think you would agree that just getting traffic to your website doesn't really get you the result. So you're really after conversions or sales as such. That's the real outcome that you want. Now, attract is all about making sure that the right audience gets to see the ads, and results is obviously generating those opportunities, which is either quick inquiries or sales directly as well. Now, thrive is just the one last thing that we do for businesses, and this is where we work very closely with the businesses. And recently, we started offering a fair bit of coaching for this. This is where we help business owners maximize their results, so basically scale what they're getting as well. Because once you sort of understand what your cost per lead is and potentially what you're getting through Google, it's very easy to calculate the ROI. And we're really keen to work with more businesses that actually want to grow. So if that's something that you want to do, we've got a service that we offer right there. And basically, that's something that we're really strong on. So an example of this would be something like a law firm wanting to advertise everything. So in the past, we had law firms coming to us and say, look, we just want to basically advertise every single service that we've got, which could be, let's say, family law, conveyancing, it could be some criminal law. And look, while we can do all that, it's just a matter of the budget and setting some goals. I mean, the question that we normally ask is, well, how many inquiries would you like to get for X, Y, and Z? And typically, a business owner wants to get as many as possible, but at the same time, it's, well, you want to get as many as possible? Why don't we go with the entire market share and spend, let's say, $50,000 per month? Would you be prepared to do that? I don't think so. Most law firms basically want to delegate a budget between, let's say, $2,000 and $5,000, and they've got a certain number of, I guess, jobs that they want to get out of it. So we like to work specifically around the goals that they're setting. So the approach that we use there would be an 80-20 approach to understand exactly which services that would want to go for. So That's your classical Pareto principle, where I guess 20% of your services will get you 80% of your revenue. And we look at this from the perspective of, well, which services can a business potentially use as cash flow, or which services do they really want to focus on to create an outcome in the meantime? So that would be our approach. Now we would create offers around those specific services or solutions, and we'll look further to identify the market for these services. Would advertise the offers, generate some conversions, analyze these results, get feedback from the customer, and fine-tune the campaigns, and then we basically come up with a growth plan specifically for that. Now, this process would typically take, I say, 2 to 3 months all up to come up with a growth plan. And in terms of the results being generated, I'd say at least 2 weeks is what we need in terms of being able to generate really good conversions. I mean, sometimes we're able to do things pretty much straight away, but just to be confident in understanding the target market and user behavior, I'd say around 2 weeks or so. That's how long it takes. So consumer behavior, let's talk about that. And I guess this is a big subject, specifically that the COVID pandemic is happening as we speak. Now, Google's been very good. As an agency, we've been getting a lot of updates from them, specifically regarding the consumer behavior. And I want to share a few of these things with you. It's important to understand what's happening and how people are behaving, just to make sure that, if you're running any campaigns, you understand why these campaigns are, behaving in a certain way. Because for some businesses, things have just suddenly gone through the roof and they haven't really done anything different. With others, things have just suddenly gone quiet. And look, it could be a number of different things. It could be the economy changing. It could be that people potentially lost their jobs and so on. But at the end of the day, you need to understand the basics behind the scenes. So let's have a look at some of these. So the first thing I want to look at is the Google Trends. And look, I've added the source of this particular slide. And that's you can Google this up, Google Trends. It's a free tool that allows you to basically look at certain keywords in a particular area. And here we're looking for migration lawyer, business visa, and permanent residence in Australia for the last 12 months. As you can see, there's a little bit of a pattern and some of these things overlap, but you can see there are drops in the behavior. But what I guess is important to understand is that certain days of the week or certain month potentially have a historical drop. And if you look at 5 years worth of data, you'll be able to see these things. So you shouldn't be expecting the same results from your campaign over and over. So it's really worth the while to have a look at this and have a bit of a marketing plan. And potentially, there are certain seasonalities that are affecting consumer behavior. Like, for example, if someone's getting their tax return in July, August period, which is about now, you'll find that these people will be spending a little bit more money on higher ticket items, for example. So that's what we found in the past. So every business is different, but it's important to understand where the customers are, which keywords they're looking for, and potentially what the response is like as well. And as you can see here, Queensland and New South Wales seem to be the hottest spots specifically for these keywords as well. So that's Google Trends. The seasonality is super, super important. Now we get some of these stats from Google, which is really good, because we need to know where the market is. And sometimes we hear these things like, oh, the market's gone, it's not there anymore. Well, that's not really true. Market is always there. It just changes the way it behaves. That's the way we look at it. Now, since the beginning of COVID, there's 33% of Australians that are watching more online videos. So YouTube has gone through the roof. And in some parts of the world, it's just completely gone nuts. I mean, people are spending far more time at home, which means that you can actually reach people through YouTube ads or through banner ads appearing on YouTube as well. You'll find that 17% of people are continuing to watch more of that, and that's potentially changing their user behavior as well. So if you're not advertising your business across those platforms, you're potentially missing out. Now, there are more online shoppers. Basically, people are spending more and more time shopping online. And overall, just in April this year, there were 6.8% higher, more purchases than in the busiest period of 2019. That's crazy. That's like through the roof. And look, I guess Australia has done great in terms of supporting people who lost their jobs, and potentially, we're in a very interesting times at the moment, and the consumer behavior has all gone pretty much online. You'll find that a lot of people like the idea of shopping online, and they will continue to shop online in the time to come. Now, 45% of people are actually looking at the products online before shopping in store. And there's a number of reasons for it. So people are a little bit more selective. They're looking for bargains, but potentially if you're selling a product and you don't have an online store, and let's say even if you want to do purchases in store, online store allows people to look at the product as a catalog and compare a few things as well. So that's the research. You'll find that things like Afterpay, ZipPay, and the likes have gone through the roof. There's 57% more purchases that are actually made using those sort of platforms. And I guess affordability and payment plans is really, really big. So this is potentially to do with uncertainty, that people don't know what's coming up and they want to make sure that the cash flow that they've got is stretched out as much as possible as well. So if your business if the service that you're providing allows for payment plans, potentially I would recommend using it as one of the selling points. Now, this obviously reflects on the Afterpay, share price. I mean, I've been watching this and this has gone crazy. I think at the start of the COVID pandemic in Australia on the 23rd of March, it's dropped to about $8. Now it's up to nearly $80. So that's crazy. This is really, really quite unusual, but this is a direct reflection exactly of how the consumers are behaving. Now, Google's advice, and Google's got the whole page on the whole COVID thing, and you can obviously click through these slides, which I'll share with you afterwards. They basically recommend businesses to keep customers informed. Now, this is via your website, Google My Business, and pretty much email marketing. You need to know people. You need to know what's coming up, I guess, with the businesses, and you'd like to be informed. So Google wants you to update your customers and your prospects on things that are happening. They want to make sure that you continue to adapt to the new consumer behavior. So this link that I'm sharing will have a few links there to basically provide you with some resources. Run your business remotely. So they are basically suggesting to potentially prepare for an infrastructure to be able to do that. And yeah, adjust your advertising. Obviously, Google, they try to sort of give you some guidance to a degree. And if you've got a campaign that you've set up a while back and it's just running, without any management, potentially, now more than ever, it's critical to have a look at it. So Google, AdWords Express, and the tools like that, please have a good look at it. So what do we do with this sort of information? I guess for us, it's all about being able to run new campaigns. It's about understanding where, branding and awareness could be done. For example, with YouTube, YouTube's got really, really nice targeting metrics where we can target people specifically on events happening in their life. So for example, if someone's getting married or if someone's just got a dog, believe it or not, there is actually a targeting metric specifically to that. So if someone's buying a house, someone's just bought a house, you can piggyback a lot of services that people will want to know about. So you can actually serve them banners and videos based specifically around that. Now, one other thing I'll tell you about YouTube is that, those videos that come up with the 5 seconds that you can basically, you have to watch the 5 seconds before you close the video. Now that's called True View, which means that you don't pay anything for that video to be watched if the person hits the skip button. Now that's really powerful if you just want to expose your brand and potentially tell people what you do. So you just put that message in the first 5 seconds of the video, and then if people continue to keep watching, you only pay for the remainder of the video as well. I think that's a really good way to get some exposure. I guess YouTube's perfect for education and engagement. We like using YouTube specifically when companies are wanting to get a bit of a competitive edge on their competitors, because most of the time people just find it too hard to get into YouTube. But it's really not much different. I guess the biggest bottleneck is the actual video content, and we've got ways around that as well. I guess new ad incentives around the user behavior. So for example, if someone's doing a face-to-face consultation, potentially doing an online consultation or a phone call. Now this happens with a lot of lawyers, for example, where the lawyers really do want to get that person in front of them just to seek the commitment, but potentially there's just too many obstacles and a lot of people are just unsure about traveling and social distancing and so on. So Zoom's been great, and we're obviously using Zoom specifically for this webinar as well. Conversion optimization. So let's jump into conversion optimization and talk about how we improve campaigns. I guess a lot of you will probably want to know more about this, and I just want to touch on a few things here. So we like to look at 3 areas specifically when it comes to Google Ads. So first of all, it's the campaign. There's really 3 things you want to refined. It's obviously the targeting. So this is your device, location, the type of person that you're targeting, and you can target men or women or specifically people within a certain age group as well. It's really quite cool what you can do within Google. Now, another big thing that we find is that people are not negating enough. Like, I mean, if you want to show your message to everybody, prepare to pay for everybody to click on your ads. Do you really have to understand, is that person your ideal target market, or will they become your target market in the future? Experiments, or make sure that you are running experiments to test the different ads, different types of ads, different call to actions within the ads, and different offers as well. One thing we're finding is that a lot of businesses just don't have offers altogether, and it's the one thing that really sets you apart from your competitors if you come up with an offer that's appealing to your customer. Now, the second thing is user experience, and I guess the biggest one here is really the speed. Google will make this more and more important, but at the end of the day, they just want to make sure that your website comes up really, really fast. And they've got a bunch of different tools that you can implement to serve your website faster. And look, the easiest benchmark is just try to get under 5 seconds. There are a whole bunch of different tools that you can use to test the speed, but if you've got big images or videos on your website, I guarantee you it's going to be much more than 5 seconds. Now, why this is important is because if your website is slow, you're going to be charged more per click, and it's actually quite a substantial figure. It's up to 20% at what we found. The slower websites are paying for the cost per click. So if you're really looking to optimize and you've got a big budget, that will make a huge difference, just making it faster. A workaround that would be potentially creating landing pages and making them lighter as opposed to keeping your website the way it is, because I know with a lot of you guys, you've got certain branding guidelines and you've got certain other goals that you want to meet as well. Now, layout, you want to make sure that the layout is really clean across mobile and desktop, and it's easy to find people. You just don't want them to sort of, you don't want them to look for stuff. That stuff really needs to be easy for them. Now, mobile, especially when it comes to organic search, is actually a whole separate ranking system in place within Google. So make sure you address mobile seriously and have a look at how your website comes up on a mobile, because there are certain expectations when people look at a mobile phone. Like, you're not going to be reading long pages. You just want content that serves to you in a compressed way where people can really find what they're looking for fast. So having just a mobile friendly page potentially does not serve the purpose. If people really want a quick result, they basically just need it straight away. And lastly, content. I guess headlines is the one thing that really grabs people's attention. Having an offer, like I said, is really huge, and call to action. Now, just on that, a lot of the time you may present some information like, book online, but unless it actually is tied into a particular action, it may not work. So if you're telling someone to book online, there's got to be a form or something that allows them to book online. Don't expect people to keep book online and then go to a contact page to fill it out. There's got to be a connection, because there are certain expectations with certain features like book online, for example. If you're putting together a phone number on the website and the idea is for them to request a free consultation, call for a free consultation, put that in there. I mean, it might be common sense, but really, if your ad is advertising one thing, that one thing has to carry through to your landing page or the website, and has to be consistent as well. The inconsistency is the one thing that really drives the conversion rate down. So let's talk about the campaign in a bit more detail. I guess a lot of people who are quite savvy with Google Ads, love the fact that there are some new automation tools from Google. However, the drama is it just ends up costing too much. If you're just going to run your campaign on autopilot, you've got no control over how much it is that you are spending per click or per conversion, because the whole automation will just drive the costs up. And look, this isn't because Google wants your money. Of course they do. It's more about the fact that bidding more basically gets you in a higher position. And there are other factors that you can basically look at in terms of fine-tuning that whole thing. And on the positioning agenda, like, the whole thing is, you don't always want to be number one. I find always that being number two is a much more optimal spot, because you don't pay as much per click. At the same time, people actually read your ad copy. So there's still quite a lot of people that click the number one position just because it's number one, without actually reading the actual ad copy. So number two, in my opinion, really gets you a lot more engagement and a much better conversion rate as well. So the way we would normally run our campaigns is we'd actually run the campaigns manually when we define the target market based on the brief with the client. And, we sort of try to understand their behavior. If people are in a particular area, if they're moving around, if they are, active at a certain time of the day. And look, this is really important because while people are searching specifically for services, they may not be able to engage with you. Like, let's say if someone's at work and they can't call you until lunchtime or something. Well, you can certainly serve the ad, but don't expect people to be able to speak to you at that time as well. So that behavior is actually really important to understand how the conversions arrive in the end. Obviously, research keywords, and there's a whole bunch of keyword tools. And look, usually the more keywords, the better, but they have to be specific. So if you got lots of keywords, great, but at the same time, understand that each keyword is going to cost you money if people are going to search that. So you want keywords that have a high intent. So when basically people are searching for something in a particular area or they want to do something, you want to develop good ads. So with the ads, we would normally run at least 3 different ads, and there are different styles of ads that you can run as well. But just make sure that they're different and make sure that you're testing things as you go as well. We get targeted traffic, and then from there, we basically focus on the best conversion. So what this allows us to do is run a campaign, understand what the cost per conversion is, and then using that information, we can then use the machine learning tools to be able to automate part of that process as well. Now, in order to do this, we often find that there are different themes within the different conversions. So to get the best outcome, we would isolate those into separate campaigns. And look, Google with its learning and stuff actually goes campaign by campaign. So if you're expecting Google to sort of understand everything within your account, it may not work like that. It may eventually end up being like that, but for the time being, it's campaign by campaign. So just make sure that you are, if you're using any of the machine learning side of things to automate some of your campaigns in the future, you run the campaigns manually, you get the real data, you work towards a desired outcome in terms of the cost per conversion, which is, how much it's costing you for the calls and inquiries. And then you basically would, isolate that so you know specifically how much it's costing. Because if you're going to keep everything in the same campaign, then potentially the conversion data is going to be mixed up. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, happy to answer some questions at the end of the presentation. Yeah, so there is a campaign type called target CPA, which allows you to sort of insert, the cost per acquisition or the cost per lead, if you like, that you want to focus on. And the biggest problem I find that some of the new businesses are making when they jump onto this, they just put something really low, and Google can't provide you any leads, or they basically will just expose your campaign to a few people that meet the target market, and that's it. So you really need that manual data in order to be able to automate anything in the future. And oftentimes you're making the assumption and you just don't know exactly what the cost per click is and what the cost per lead should be as well. Now, content, I guess it's all about having an offer versus, a service. And we find that oftentimes people just market a service like, Lawyers Brisbane, for example. Well, that's great. Or let's say family law or child custody services. They're the services that you're advertising, but what's the offer behind that? Why should someone take action and speak to you? We find that the offer is what actually creates the intent, and you want the intent in order for people to actually commit to that search query or to that inquiry. We find that having an incentive creates better conversations as well. So if you're doing, let's say, a free half-an-hour consultation or something like that, that allows people to understand that you're offering some sort of an incentive for them to move forward, as opposed to them basically paying for the first consultation. So really, it's just a matter of understanding the sales process and making sure that the offer reflects that quite well as well. Now, there's a thing called the ACO principle that we've developed over time, and it's really about 4 things: affordability, convenience, utility, and availability. We find that mentioning these things within your ads definitely helps to understand, for the customer to understand exactly what you're offering, and really touches on their wants as well. So everyone's going to ask you, how much do you charge? And that's fine, but that's not the selling point. You really want to make sure you bring your business as something that solves a problem, and there's convenience around it. Convenience would be things like parking as to where you are. So let's say if you're a busy dental practice in Brisbane CBD or Melbourne or Sydney or wherever, you really want to make sure you address the parking question, because that could actually be the selling point there. Utility is all about you, the accreditations that you've got and the reasons why people should come and see you specifically. And lastly, availability. You may be able to sell some people purely on that. If they know that you're available to talk to them right now or today, they will take action. So these are the four things we want to touch on within our ads, and we find that this is actually what's getting us the best return as well. So use this, guys, and make sure that you understand exactly how this applies to your business, because it's obviously going to be very different. Last thing, user experience. So we're talking about landing pages versus home pages. So I still see a lot of campaigns where, you look at a Google ad and all the traffic goes to a home page. Well, if you want to do that, that's fine, but don't expect the best conversion rate. Now, we get a conversion rate of double to 10 times better by using a landing page. And the main reason for that is that you basically are simplifying the whole message just to one thing. And typically we use that 80-20 approach to identify the niche in the business to promote. And we also minimize navigation, so people got nowhere else to go. The biggest problem with homepage is that people may come through to your homepage, and then they see, well, there's a section for pricing or services. They click on that, and then it's another story altogether. So you really want to be able to control that a little bit more. Mobile and desktop focus. Is like I said to you before, we find that homepage has got a lot of content. It's really busy, and we want to make sure that the information is served to them in a very concise way. So I'll show you an example of a landing page in a minute as well. Yeah, like I said, give the user what they want, don't make them look for it. So that's probably the easiest way to describe it. So this is an example of a landing page that we run for a dental practice. So this is a suburban dental practice, and I've got a case study around this later. But really the idea is to make it clean, make it easy to follow. And if you look at this on the mobile view, it's quite straightforward as well. It tells you where this particular clinic is. It tells you, how to contact them. There's a phone number, there's the address. And overall, it talks about the offer, that they offer affordable family dental services, and they've got a $159 special offer for new patients. As you can see with the value points, we are targeting specifically interest-free payment plans. That's the affordability. No referral needed. That's the convenience. Children's bulk billing. 10 years experience, that's more to do with utility, and emergency services available. That's more to do with availability. So this is how we basically have translated that principle to this particular client, and they're getting really good results with it as well. As you can see, we've also enhanced this particular landing page with the review ratings, and now you have to be really careful as to how you do this for some industries, because there are regulations in place. So if you're not sure, perhaps speak to us first, because specifically with health, there are some regulations, and you have to comply with those regulations in order to be able to advertise as well. All right, so let's talk about SEM to SEO, because that's a big topic as well. And look, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but hopefully I'll be able to provide you with a little bit of guides as to what you can do. So we like to say, SEO allows you to take things to the next level. First of all, SEM versus SEO. So search engine marketing, which is Google ads or potentially Bing ads, it's fast. It's all about testing. It's all about understanding what works and what doesn't. It's about having full control. Like if you advertise, your ads appear. If you don't advertise, ads don't appear at all. Whereas with SEO, it's something that really takes a lot of time. And I find that a lot of people jump into SEO straight away without understanding what actually converts for them. So they haven't tested the ads, they haven't tested the keywords, they haven't tested the messages, and they just jump straight into it. Understand that it's going to take you at least 3 to 6 months to get decent results for the keywords. I mean, if you're going after really specific keywords, you can get results a lot faster, but still, you need to understand if they're working for you. Don't just make the assumptions. SEO allows you to get full reach. So if you're ranking somewhere, you're going to basically be exposed to the entire market, and you've got very little control afterwards. I mean, who sees it and how they see it is not up to you at all. So that's the main thing. So what we like to do is we like to actually run Google ads initially, just to understand exactly what the conversion data is like. And then from there, we'd be able to pick the keywords that are converting quite well and follow the process in order to make them rank. So one thing that we get asked about is, should you do, Google ads if you already got SEO? Well, absolutely. We find that if you're running both, you get usually 3 times the results. And I think this has got to do with you being present more than once. So if you come up 3 or 4 times on the homepage of on the first page of Google, a lot of people do pay attention to it. So our process goes like this: we find the converting keywords. So research, the education tier of the keywords. So this is more to do with awareness and education. So keywords that may not necessarily convert into action, but we basically want to know what people are searching for. This is information like, you know, how does this work, or how much does something cost, and so on and so forth. We create rich blog posts specifically for that. We create service pages that addresses related questions as well. You might have found that a lot of the time when you search for something in Google now, Google gives you like answers to specific questions. Now, the source of those answers usually comes from the questions that are featured on the website. The structure the whole thing has to be really clean and straightforward. Now, we use WordPress for our websites, and look, there's many ways to set it up, but overall, there's got to be really strong interlinking behind the scenes. Speed, once again, is one of the key factors as well, and you have to make sure that the mobile side of things is set up right. And Google's got this thing called the Webmaster Tools that allows you to basically analyze the performance of your website across mobile, desktop, and a bunch of other things as well. And lastly, backlinks, and this is the one big thing that has to be done ongoing. So if you do this, you'll be able to rank for a lot of keywords, specifically to the education tier of the marketing funnel. And then from there, you'll be able to progress further down to the main keywords that've got the intent as well. That's the process that we follow. Google Business. Now, this is the bridge between you and your client. I guess this is the fastest thing you can do for your business. And if you haven't optimized this, I urge you guys have a look at it, because a lot of people just they just forget about it. They just never review the whole thing. And look, there are occasionally new things popping up within Google My Business. And if you log in there, they'll tell you, well, your profile could be, let's say, 50% complete. Now, the first thing is you have to make sure it's all accurate and complete and relates to your business 100%, which is where sometimes Google will send you suggestions like saying, well, potentially you should try to target these areas, or you should maybe change your categories or something like along those lines. You normally get local rankings really fast, and I guess it's all about consistency. So if your business is set up across True Local or maybe Yellow Pages or any other sources, make sure that the information is consistent, because Google will actually look into those and find that if there are discrepancies between how your address is presented or your phone number or your hours of operation, they will ask you to sort of correct it and verify it as well. Getting reviews, that's the one thing that a lot of people struggle with, but at the end of the day, if you're going to get the keywords within the actual reviews specifically to your service, you will rank a lot higher. Now, that's a bit of a tip there for you. So if someone's leaving you a review and you know, they can include the keywords around your services, that will actually make you rank higher within the Google business. It's a bit of a trick there. Now, especially when it comes to COVID, you have to make sure that information is accurate and up to date as well. Most of the people will find that Google My Business is the #1 source for the correct phone number, location or the direction to the whole place, and opening hours as well. So make sure that these are consistent and they are accurate. So make sure they come up on your website as they would on Google My Business as well. We also find that reviews is not something that's going to happen by itself. And look, if you've been in business for 5 or 10 years and you've only got 3 to 4 reviews, there's something wrong with that. You know, like you really need to get a lot more than that. Google wants you to have at least 15 reviews in order to really recognize you as a credible business. I mean, it changes all the time, but we find that businesses with hundreds of reviews, they get a bit of a special consideration. Google actually does rank them quite high compared to everybody else. So we find that the majority of customers will look at reviews before taking action with a particular business. So make sure that this is addressed. And yeah, I can't stress this high enough. Within Google My Business, there is a link that you can actually grab, and you can send this specifically to your email database and potentially, you know, recent clients, and ask them for feedback as well. Now, case studies. All right, well, let's move on to something that we've done for our clients and see if maybe any of this relates to you guys. So first of all, let's talk about this business. This business is called Best of the Bone. Well, in fact, that's the name of the product. The actual client's called the Herbal Doctor. Now, this is a product that's basically, you may find this in some of the butcher stores. It's actually quite popular, but this is one of those superfoods. Now, superfoods is one of those things that has actually exploded since the beginning of COVID. A lot of people started searching for this stuff online. And look, it's good for your immune system, and it's got a whole bunch of different benefits and so on. But The owner of the business has basically done a lot of distribution through butchers and shops and stuff, but online they basically manage their ads internally, and we're really burning, a couple of $1,000s every month and not really getting the return that they wanted. So this sort of client would normally say, I'm always busy but not busy enough. So I mean, it's quite normal. And look, as a business owner, you should be working, on the business as opposed to being in the business. If you're working too much in the business, well, you don't really have a business as such. I think you're really created yourself a self-employed scenario. Look, this is straight from Robert Kiyosaki's The Four Business Quadrant, if you've read it. But just understand, if you're running a business or if you're self-employed, and potentially they may actually answer a lot of the questions for you as to why you're doing things in the first place. I guess this is a best product in terms of bone broth concentrate. That's there's lots of reviews. There's not a lot of competitors there, and the ones that are there, they do admit that this is a great product. And for us, it's important that we are promoting a product that is good, that is quality. We started working with this particular client in April 2020. We've been in talks with them for a while, but they've just always been too busy. And they just found that, well, we're hearing good things about people buying superfoods and so on. We haven't seen that. Can you help us out? So we started working with them this year. The first month was ROAS of 2,800. Now that means that each advertising dollar was basically bringing in $28 of return. That's really, really good, in case you're wondering. And I'll show you a report. This is in fact one of the reports that we normally send out. This is accumulated from the Google Ads and analytics data, and it actually shows the breakdown of our campaign. So this is typically what our customers receive, and it allows customers to actually select the different date ranges and see exactly how the campaign is performing. So this is basically for the month of July, and as you can see, the ROS, which is the bottom right cell, basically shows that it's it's 34 now. So it's actually gone up quite a lot. And from spending just over $1,800 per month, they've generated $63,000 worth of revenue. So this is an online store. People buy a product. If you check out this website, you'll find that the website needs a lot of work, and that's one thing we're going to be working with them next. But yeah, we've been able to run a really, really awesome campaign, and yeah, it's one of those that just needs the right sort of touch in order to make it work. So yeah, really, really good one. The next one I want to look at is Crestmead Dental. Obviously, this specific one I've already mentioned in terms of the landing page, and you can have a look at that yourself. It's a suburban dental practice, nothing too big. They came to our event similar to this one, and we normally run 2 or 3 events with Google ourselves, and obviously this year, because of all the obvious reasons, we're doing this as a webinar. So they came through the webinar, or seminar I should say, just like this one, and they basically just decided to get us to have a look at their ads, and this is what happened. They've got a budget of $1,500 per month, and they were using AdWords Express. The problem with that was that they were paying just about over $70 per conversion, which is either a phone call or an inquiry. And they were doing everything themselves in-house. So typical example where it all sort of appears all too simple, but at the same time, doesn't really get you the return. And they just didn't know what sort of return they should be expecting. Now, this is the most recent campaign specifically for them for the last 30 days. And at the moment, on average, they're paying about $12 per lead. So for the budget spent $1,368, just over $1,300, they basically got 112 conversions. So that's huge. That's a lot of people inquiring about their services, and we've been able to bring down the cost per conversion quite substantially over time. So this is a really good one as well. Australink Alliance. Now this is a migration law firm, and they do a little bit of family law as well, and they're located at Forest Lake in Brisbane. So it's a boutique established business. They basically have been doing migration and family law for quite some time. They were looking for very, very specific clients. They were looking for clients who wanted to get business visas. They were looking for clients that basically had trouble specifically with the migration, so they needed like ministerial intervention and stuff like that. So that's the campaign that we're running for them. They tried Google Ads with another agency years ago, had bad experience, so were very skeptical about the whole thing. So we actually started working with them as a web design client a while back, and it was a conversation that eventually originated, and they basically wanted to get more inquiries. So this is what they're running at the moment. And their conversion rate is about 12%, which is about 1 in 9 people who comes to the ad. And they've had 21 inquiries across July as well. Now, not a big budget given the fact that the cost per click is a lot more expensive, but look, if you're getting inquiries at $56 for something that may originate in tens of thousands of dollars, I think you'd be doing quite good as well. And look, this is a fairly small campaign. We've got some customers who'd be spending a lot more than that. Our biggest customer at the moment is spending close to $50,000 every month. And look, the whole thing really depends on the ROI and I guess the goals of the business as well. Having a huge budget is obviously great, but at the same time, it's about the cost per conversion and the return in the end. So if you got the team to be able to service the services, if you got the team to be able to process this, that's the only way you'd probably be able to run that. Discovery session. Well, look, I guess with a lot of the people wanting to work with us, we just need to make sure that we can actually help you along the way. And sometimes, a lot of the time, we can't work with certain businesses as well. So what we offer is a discovery session, and it's really an opportunity for us to learn about your business, I guess, potentially provide guidance and advice, because a lot of the time, especially if you have a team of people, you're able to make some good changes pretty much straight away just by consulting with an agencies like ours. And from here, we basically get to see if we can help a business like yours as well. Now, this is an obligation-free meeting, and typically this goes for about half an hour to an hour as a phone call or a Zoom call, and then we'll basically just go from there to see if we can work together. In case you missed it, the link for that is over here, use.com.au/discovery. And I guess this is probably the best thing that we can offer you guys in terms of seeing if there is an opportunity. We often do a free account review as well. So if you've been running something with Google for a while and you just don't know how well it's going, happy to jump in on that. And this is probably the least we can do to help you guys. And this is something that we do with all the people that approach us. We want to make sure we understand enough about their business. And if there's something that we can do, great. That would be awesome. I guess in terms of the recent developments with us, we've been doing a fair bit of LinkedIn marketing lately. So we're starting to offer B2B campaigns to businesses because this is quite a hot topic right now. We've been doing a lot of conversion optimization. This is where people potentially spend a lot of dollars, and even a 10% increase in conversions would mean substantial revenue increase. Sales coaching. Now, if your sales, if your conversion rate is less than 20%, if people are calling you or inquiring, you're not able to get them over the line, there is a sales problem that you guys are having. So we normally would aim for a conversion rate of at least 30%. If it's lower than that, and obviously this depends on the business, we would normally do some sales coaching with you guys, because the ads have to be connected to a particular call to action, and we understand what sort of audience is actually being promoted to. And if we can help you close more of those sales as well, or potentially work with your sales staff to close these, everyone's a winner in the end. We work with a lot of marketing teams. We love working with companies that have a marketing manager or a coordinator, because a lot of the time they just basically are on their own and they're asked to do so many different things, and they need guidance, direction, and potentially also delegation of certain tasks as well. So that's the one thing we do as well. And agencies, we actually like working with other agencies as well. We work with a couple of design agencies because design isn't something that we do. We're on ads, we do web development, so we actually help a lot of agencies develop the websites. So there's a lot of synergies that we've got available with other agencies, and if this is something that of interest to you, we're keen to have a chat as well. Now, we've got some happy clients reviews as well, and look, you can have a look at them in your own time, but overall, I guess we're trying to provide top service. I mean, for us, it's all about making sure that the clients are happy. And we work usually without contracts. So we work on month-to-month basis. We make it an open relationship, and the whole thing is relationship focused. We don't want to lock anybody into a contract. We want to make sure you guys get an outcome. And for us, long-term is really the goal. Questions? Has anybody got any questions? And look, guys, there is a chat window that you can potentially use to ask the questions. So anything you want to ask? Well, I guess this is some of the questions that we received over time, just prior to the meeting, and some people have asked the questions about how much would normally would the budget be in order to run Google ads? And look, I guess the answer to that is it really depends on the sort of results that you're wanting to get. We normally say, look, if you put a budget of $1,000 for a business, it's a good budget to be able to sort of to play with. Less than that, yes, you can certainly run any budget, but sometimes the actual keywords can be so expensive that it's very difficult to test it out. So the budget really depends on your goals, I guess. We had a question where someone asked if they get a lot of bad quality leads and how to improve them as well. Well, look, this is a bit of a question really for the sales team, just to understand what a bad lead is all about. And I guess from there, once we know if someone's calling, if there's a particular pattern or a profile, we can actually negate that specific audience as well. Oftentimes the offer may not potentially convert into an outcome. And there are ways to address this as well. Like, for example, we've had a law firm in the past basically promoting a free consultation, and I think it was like half an hour consultation, and they actually wanted people to book and come in for the consultation, and the turn-up rate wasn't working out very well. Now, the whole thing was a failure purely because people were expecting something over the phone and they weren't expecting to sort of come in for anything. And it was just basically a matter of tweaking that specific offer to get them a better outcome as well. So it could be not the actual advertising, but the execution of a particular offer as well. There was a question, and this is a common one we get asked about, what's better, Facebook or Google ads? And look, they're different things. And we find overall that, if you're talking about Facebook ads as, normal sponsored ads that you see on your feed, versus, let's say, Facebook banner ads, they're about the same. But if you're talking about Facebook ads versus search ads, which is where people search for something, the search ads usually are much better because people are specifically looking to solve a particular problem, or the intent is usually a lot higher. So I find that those ads are definitely much better than Facebook, but at the same time, I guess it all really depends on the nature of the campaign and what it is that you're actually looking to achieve. Should we run campaigns via Bing? I just had this last night. Someone sent this through. Now, if you're running a Google Ads campaign, you've been running it for a while, and you're looking to sort of expand that further, Bing is a great opportunity. Bing is another 11% of the market in Australia specifically, and overseas in some places actually up to 50% of the market. So, yeah, it's a great way to do the same thing, and we always find that the cost per click and the cost per conversion is a lot lower than it is within Google as well. Betting on competitor keywords, that was a question. Is it worth it? Well, it really depends what you're looking to achieve. A lot of the time I find that people want to sort of bet on competitor keywords, but we find with service industries, that doesn't necessarily get you the conversions. You definitely get a lot of clicks, you get a lot of exposure, but usually that results in legal letters and potentially people not being too happy with you doing so as well. So usually not, but there are a few ways where you can actually use competitor keywords specifically for the shopping products as well. So that's a different strategy. And yeah, if you guys are interested, happy to tee up a time to have a chat about that. Well, I think that brings us to the end of the presentation. If there is any questions that are coming through, let's have a look. Okay, I've got a couple of questions over here. I didn't see them beforehand. Wow, quite a lot. Do you offer service to non-for-profit organizations? Look, potentially. Non-for-profits is not something we worked a great deal with, and at the same time, I don't think how this would be too different. So happy to have a chat. Well, guys, I missed quite a number of questions, so apologies for that. Will you share the content with us? Yeah, absolutely. I will send you an email as a follow-up to this recording as well as the PowerPoint slides. How should a landing page be connected to your website itself? Well, many different ways. You can have it as a separate page altogether with minimized navigation, or what we normally do is we set it up as a subdomain where we normally put in something like lp dot and then the domain of the business, and that would be actually forwarded to our servers. Now, the reason why we do this is oftentimes we realize that fiddling with somebody's website is too much work. So we've got our own framework on our servers that are super fast, and we'd have those serving the landing page altogether. So that's how that would normally be set up. If you want to have a look at an example, lp.crestmeaddental.com.au, that's where you can see that other one. All right, so what other questions did we have? What's the best way to determine niche keywords for optimal SEM? No, great question. Well, look, I think it's just about trial and error, really. And I think Google Keyword Tool, or Keyword Planner as it's called now, is a great way to start. Now, make sure it's connected to your account that's actually got the actual campaign in it, because sometimes it uses data from your campaign and actually tells you how well they are performing. Yeah, well, I think that's pretty much it, guys. If there's no final questions, guys, like I said, let's tee up a time for a discovery session. I'd be more than happy to be able to address your questions specifically, because I realize you guys, run very, very different businesses, and potentially we only touched on a few different scenarios. I really appreciate you finding the time in your busy Friday afternoon to be able to, come to our webinar. And yeah, guys, hopefully you've learned something. Yeah, chat soon. Thank you.